This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first.
Hey, good morning. It's Halas Hall Report. And of course, it seems I'm the only Bear fan awake this morning. Oh, and there's Packer backer Rob. We just finished the rant, our new show on the Huddle Network, and time for a Bears show. So we went from talking Bears or Packers Lions, and now it's all Bears talk for an hour. Oh my goodness. Yeah, Bears wise, not much. We signed a punt returner,
kick returner, yeah, I saw that.
Returner. So a lot of people are saying, well, Velus Jones might be done for in Chicago. I always think it's funny no matter what team you follow, when this type of stuff happens, like they'll just sign some guy who this late in the year is still a free agent, and it's like, oh, well, some starter is gone now. It's like, I know he's competition. The opportunity for the starter to be gone might be there, but I guess we're in that time of year, like minus some extensions, which Chicago really has none to do this offseason.
You guys did a lot already, man. You guys have done a whole lot already. So
now there is more talk about Keenan Allen extension. I don't think anything happens.
I wouldn't do anything with him until you see how he plays.
I guess if he came to the Bears and said, look, you got to remember, part of the reason why he got traded to begin with is he didn't want to take a pay cut in LA, right? So LA trades him. It's not about the cap hit. The cap hit was 32, but his pay is 18. So that's what you got to pay him next year, right? If he doesn't want to take a pay cut, 18. I guess if he would come to the Bears and say, look, I'll do it for 10 or 15, the Bears might entertain signing him early. But the problem is, in his little press conference when he changed his tune, like, oh yeah, maybe I'd like to stay here more, was like, oh, but you got to remember what JJ just signed for. And he started talking about the market. And it's like, dude, you ain't getting $30 million a year out of Chicago. We're going to pay DJ more before we pay you.
Yeah.
I mean, what is up with the receiver market?
I get it. He's got the most experience, but there's no way that he commands that. I thought you guys were crazy for taking on his contract in the first place, but I get why you did it. So,
it was a luxury. I mean, he's obviously a luxury with that cap hit. That was a luxury. It's like, okay, we got the cap hit this year. We can take it. Look at that. Means we have $32 million in cap just with his contract be gone next year, right? I mean, there's DJ Moore's money right there.
As long as he performs, it's worth it. If he has a shit year and he's got injury problems. I mean, but so did every other wide receiver from San Diego.
I think it's a smart move by Poles. Knowing, he didn't know for a fact that he was going to draft Williams at that point when he made the trade for him, but it ended up being a smart move either way, whether he went with Williams or kept Justin. He's a good, if he's a 1-year rental, that's a good 1-year rental for a rookie quarterback or a rebuilt offense to have, while you're figuring out your slot, because he's probably going to be the slot guy. He's, on the depth chart, he's 2, but he's playing the 3. Rome will play the 2 because he's more built for that, probably. And then I wouldn't be surprised if you saw 3 guys moving around. Like you see Rome in the 1, DJ going to the 2, Keenan to the 3, and then the next play will be Keenan's in the 1, Rome's in the 2. Because that's going to throw defensive coordinators for like, okay, crap. So I got to go man to man. It could prohibit certain types of coverages if they start moving these guys around. And I based that theory off the edge theory. Like, remember with Khalil Mack, one plays on the right, next play he's on the left, then he's on the right. Then you're like, where the hell did he go? Oh shit, he just sacked my quarterback. I kind of look at the wide receiver in Green Bay. If you think about it, we can make a comparison with the Packers. Good morning, Walter. We got a Vikings fan in here. Outstanding. Chiming in from Twitter, from X. It looks like the comments from X are coming in now all of a sudden because we were just mentioning the other day how they don't. But good morning, Walter. Good to have you here. The Packers with the receiver by committee kind of have that kind of same vibe going. Like, okay, it doesn't matter where they line up. It's just kind of works.
Right.
But no, the Bears. I mean, look at. I think it's the best offense on paper that we fielded probably ever. I mean, with the biggest question being the offensive line, that weaponry wise, it's the best we've ever fielded.
I've never seen you guys have a team this good ever.
Offensive line, it's not the best offensive line we've ever fielded. I don't think it has potential to be a really good offensive line if they fix the center position, and some guys can stay healthy. But it's not like the '85 offensive line. That offensive line protected McMahon really, really good. Good morning, Matt. Bear down. But offensive weapon wise, yeah, I've never seen a team this stacked in Chicago. And the fact that the first 4 picks were offensive minded. Yeah, even the punter was an offensive minded pick, right? So, usually we're drafting a corner or a linebacker.
I mean, you guys can't do it all in 1 year. You did a lot last year. I mean, I know Pole's been working on it for a couple of years, but it feels like this year he turned the key and like totally. I mean, you guys added every position on offense. I think I can't even remember the last time you guys added so many offensive pieces.
So is this a renaissance of it? Not only of the Bears, but the NFC.
A double doink is when Brett Favre is sacked and intercepted on the same play.
I didn't look at it. Fell to the floor and hit the button. I didn't mean to hit the button. That's hilarious. Thank you, Mary Pat. Is this not just a renaissance of the Bears, though, but of the NFC North and the NFC in general? Because I kind of feel like we're seeing that shift back to power, shifting somewhat back to the NFC in general. Because the power has been in the AFC the last couple of years. Remember, was it 2 years ago? All the free agents went to the AFC. But this year, we started seeing a lot more coming back in the NFC. We look at the NFC North now. You've got 4 teams that could possibly win 10 games, or 10 games get you last. You've got the East is actually pretty good overall. Let's face it, the East used to be a joke, but Philly's actually good. The Cowboys, well, they're good in the regular season at least. Washington's had some flashes, but right now they're fixing some stuff. New York is the East version of our Minnesota. They got a good team. They just got some a quarterback issue or two to figure out. You look at the West, Arizona is they can be competent. Put it that way. Seattle's had flashes. San Francisco's been sustained. Good team. I mean, so are we starting to see the NFC in general? I hope I don't unplug myself as I pull my little board back up. Are we starting to see a shift back to power in the NFC, which was kind of be bad? It sucked for us because when you guys were winning division championships, no one could figure out what the end zone looked like except for Green Bay. And now we all figured it out. It's like we all figured it out. It's like, damn it, I want 10 years of a crappy division too.
Well, it's been a while since the division has been this competitive. I mean, since the 90s, since the last time. I mean, honestly, I can't remember the division everybody having a decent team.
The Bears have been, compared to the toilet and the Vikes, the Bears have been more sustained as far as having good years than the other teams. The Packers have sustained it the longest, but you guys also had a lot more stability, I think, in coaching personnel, key personnel than Chicago has. But I mean, the color era, we put up a couple division championships, right?
Yeah.
The Bears, we just go like on these 2 to 3 year basement benders, and then also we pop back up and win a division and go back on a bender.
Some of it's been draft picks, though. I mean, we've had the same issues. I mean, think of all the like Kevin White. He's got to be the biggest bust in your recent history.
Yeah, Yeah, I think just after Rashawn
Because
Salam,
you guys put a lot on him to come through, and he didn't do shit. Yeah, Rashawn Salam, I remember that. Rashawn
Cedric
Salam.
Benson.
Yeah,
He
Benson.
was another one. Trubisky, I don't know if he was much of a bust or we ruined him.
I think that's what. No, I don't think you guys have drafted bad quarterbacks. They just didn't develop them right. It's bad coaching. That's the problem been. Bad coaching.
And with Caleb, he's the first one that we're drafting where the plan is to start from day one. The last two we drafted, the plan was not to play at all their rookie year, and then midway through the year they took over. So they never, so in a way, I guess we'll see how this works, because the other way didn't work for Chicago. Oh, we'll sit a guy. It never worked because the fans, by game 6, we got to start the rookie. It's like, we're going to ruin another one. At least this guy knows coming in, right? He's going to be the starter.
Well, he's expecting it. He's wanting to start. So, I mean, I think you might have had more pushback if he didn't think he was starting.
Yeah.
Honestly, from that guy, you would probably have a lot more pushback. Yeah,
because Justin didn't give too much pushback. It's okay, I get it, learn for a year. But at number one, you're starting. You're starting. That's like you don't draft Connor McDavid for the Oilers and send him to junior hockey for a year when you drafted him number one.
It's just so weird how the NFL's changed. I mean, man, 25 years ago, you would never start your starters. They would never see. They would never see. Not week one. Starting in. There's no way unless it was like major injury.
It was more like the NHL. If you were the number one, number two pick, you probably started. And then after that, like even the NHL, if you're number 3 and beyond, you don't start the season in the NHL. The NFL was kind of like that. If you were the number 1, number 2 pick, you were probably expected to be a starter out the gate. But if you were later, 3 and beyond, and then that number kept creeping. And now it's at a point where if you're a position player, that's not a quarterback, and you're drafted anyone in the first round, you're expected to start day one. Yeah. If you're a quarterback and you're in the top 10, you're expected to start day one. So if you're outside the top 10 still, you kind of get that, well, they can sit you for a year and the fans and the media doesn't go crazy. But they draft you at number 9, you better believe they're starting this year. There have been some exceptions. Trey Lance was an exception, but they had Jimmy G, so that was an exceptional. It's not like if they would have drafted Caleb 1 and kept Justin, they could have started Justin and let Caleb sit. They probably gotten away with it. There would have been some controversy, which would have been great for Hard Knocks, right? Because we're getting Hard Knocks this year. That would have been great for Hard Knocks.
I think you get Hard Knocks because you got Caleb. That's why.
Yeah. Well, we're getting Hard Knocks for a couple of reasons. One, if you look at the storylines, the only other 2 teams that are eligible to be forced were the Saints and the Broncos.
Yeah.
The Saints, not much going on storyline there. They're just kind of in cap hell. The Broncos, okay, you could maybe have a little something with Sean Payton. And they just got rid of Russ. Of course, they would go into that in the quarterback situation. But after that, they didn't do anything. The Bears, though, they went out and signed free agents, made big trades, two top 10 picks. There was a lot going on in Chicago to unpack.
It's a better storyline too, because if Caleb ends up, I mean, it goes either way. I mean, they win either way. If he has a bad year, they win. If he has a good year, they win. So can't lose.
And then you got the whole Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze. They're going to talk about Cole Kmet. They're going to talk about this team has 3 or 4 guys who are local, who grew up in Chicago, now play for the Bears. That'll be another aspect they can go. The Eberflus transformation from looking like, now he looks like almost like Phil Jackson. I swear he's transforming into Phil Jackson right before our eyes. They got all kinds, they got the whole stadium issue they can talk about. I mean, if you're Hard Knocks, how do you not go to Chicago this
year? I mean, they've never been there. It's a traditional team. It's a big, a team with a lot of tradition and fans. I mean, I like it. I mean, I look. I'm not going to watch it just because I don't want to like the Bear players. I'm being honest, man. I'm just. It happened when I hated the fact that I knew most of the Lions players by the time the fucking season started because I watched Hard Knocks.
Yeah.
And I'm fucking pulling for these guys to, that Rodrigo guy to make the team. And you know what? Why? Why am I rooting for the fucking division foe? I'm not. I was sucked in. I just can't do it, bro. Because I really enjoy those shows and I get into them, and it would make me like the Bears, and I don't want to do that, man. God damn it.
Well, we're gonna have Hard Knocks on Mike the Bear Fan on our subscription page.
I'm sure.
So as long as the football game. So if you're watching, you're like, how am I gonna get Hard Knocks? I don't have HBO. Well, go to the Mike the Bear Fan, subscribe on our subscription side, and we're gonna have it there. It won't be on demand.
You guys ain't doing a special podcast and hosting it yourself.
That's what we're doing, but on the subscription side, and then kind of like the games. As soon as the episode's over, we delete the podcast. So, all those wonderful people that like to ban your pages can't find it. But no, I mean, the Bears also got every preseason game televised live. That's never happened. Well, it happens every year in Chicago, but outside.
Yeah,
every one of them is on NFL Network.
Fucking Caleb, you could suck a dick. That's all because of him, man. They all want to see how he.
Well, the NFL
does in the preseason.
The NFL said we want to focus on all the rookie quarterbacks. Okay.
Well, yeah, you're right. How many rookie quarterbacks? How many are going to start besides Caleb and what's his name from the
Daniels,
Commanders?
May?
You think May's going to start too? Think May's going to start?
And Bo Nix. He's going to start over the Milf Hunter in Denver. Maybe depending on health, Penix. If Kirk's not ready to go.
Kirk, but that's just because of injury. I mean, I think that could be expected.
There could be a few, but I mean, that one. Look at and now when you think about it, when they made that pick of Penix, we all went. And even Ryan Poles, if you watch that 1920 Football Avenue production, Poles like Penix, like he was like, "What the hell?" kind of look in his eyes. But now it's starting to make more sense when you sit back and think about, well, wait a minute. What if Kurt can't go week one? Or what if he gets hurt? It makes more sense. Because last year, that's why they kept the Milf Hunter with the Jets. Like, well, if Aaron goes down, we still got him. And Aaron went down, they still had him, and he still sucked. But, I mean, and he's going to get a lot of playing time because Kirk right now is the guy until he's, can't be the guy. So, but Bears fans don't think we're going to see a lot of Caleb Williams in the preseason because we're not. We're not going to see a lot of him or Odunze because teams don't play their starters in the preseason anymore.
No, you might see him in the third game or the fourth game. You guys got 4 preseason games.
Yeah, I would like to see them in the fourth game for at least the first half.
Yeah, you want to see them in there for a quarter or something,
No, at least a half.
Yeah.
Because remember back in the day when we had 4, it's like, okay, the first one they'd play they would progress, right? It was like the first one they played about a quarter, the second one they played the half, the third one they barely played, and the fourth one they played into the second half.
Yeah.
And then
they at least played a series the first. I remember Favre playing at least one series. Sometimes a full quarter. I mean, during the Favre era, everybody played. I mean, they had the starters out there somewhat in the preseason.
Well, I remember for game 4, they would play at least the first series of the second half before the guys who were trying to make the team took over. So
and I know when Jordy blew out his knee, that's when we stopped doing it. When Jordy in that Pittsburgh game, he all he did was jump, catch the ball, and landed it, and his knee was gone. I
know we've talked about this on the morning show. But have we just traded in preseason injuries for the ton of week 1 injuries? I mean, I don't know. I want in one way I want to see a lot of Caleb and Rome in the preseason because they need snaps. They need to get game ready, game focused. You can't do that in practice. You don't get game energy. You don't expend game energy in practice. So I hope the Bears play Caleb more in the preseason. I hope we see a little more Rome. I hope we see a lot of our rookies we drafted, like all of them. Well, except the punter. I don't want to punt much. But I mean, I just hate that we don't see these guys in week 1. It still feels like the preseason. In week 1, we got, I wouldn't say the hardest week 1 game, but we got a pretty good week 1 game against Tennessee. So I'd like to see Caleb get at least a significant amount of snaps in the preseason.
Well, here's the argument. I'm going to say this because you're the one who's like, in week 1 last year, Jay, you said Aaron Jones went off on you guys. Had he played in the preseason, that hammy he pulled in your game would have been, and then he wouldn't even showed up for that game.
Or maybe he doesn't even pull the hammy because he's in better shape. He's in game shape.
Honestly, I think it's the conditioning coach on the team, and they changed all that because there were just way too many problems. I mean, Watson with his hammy, Stokes with his. I mean, there was just so many nagging injuries with pulled hamstrings and ankles, and even Jair had a bunch of shoulder. His was a shoulder. I mean, just nagging injuries.
Are we seeing though like these significant week 1, week 2 injuries because they're not playing enough in the preseason?
Well, I mean, and maybe that's. I mean, who's to say? Like, I don't even know the numbers. I mean, more coaches will tell you, well, I'd rather risk. Why risk any starters for a meaningless game?
Right.
So you take that risk. You hope
the Lions fans for years, that was the only time they could win the North was in the preseason. Preseason champs. But I mean,
well, hey, let's just say 85 Bears. They didn't win one preseason game, and then they fucking stomped ass the rest of the way. So preseason don't mean shit.
In the preseason, you don't see anything from the offense or the defense really, which is going to be fun because that's what I love about this part of the year.
I love the rookies playing. I love seeing the mistakes they make. I like seeing their development. I like seeing what we got. That's where guys like these guys are fighting for their spots, and they're taking risks out there in these preseason games, to get on the squad, just to make a squad.
But Rob, you know what we're going to see, right? This is what we're going to see. Well, the Paul Merkels of the world are like, oh my God, the Bears in the Hall of Fame game, that defense, oh my God, that defense looked like this. I'm like, dude, that defense you saw in the Hall of Fame game or in preseason week 3 is not the same defense you're going to see in week 1.
It's very vanilla. It's very vanilla, very plain. They just play base defenses, nickel, dimes. That's it. They're not going to
sometimes not even that. Sometimes they just play some weird crap you'll never ever see again, so that the teams can't get used to what their base looks like.
Yeah,
it's just there's so much chess while these guys are trying to develop. So much chess being played by coaches. But yeah, I just think that I don't know. It's like I kind of want to see more than the average starting quarterback time for Caleb in the preseason. Like I seriously, I want to see
you guys. We didn't get to see Jordan Love last year. That's the thing, bro. Preseason, we didn't get to see none. We had to wait till week 1 and see what we got against you guys.
We're gonna get to see, and I know in the first half, you guys are going, oh,
yeah.
And then Aaron Jones,
but at halftime, you're like, okay, it's not terrible. This ain't over. We're not losing it. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like
the Bears gave us a cheapie to start the game. We're not doing, they've dominated since, but hey, it's okay. We're not, guys in their half. And then Aaron Jones comes out and goes, hi, hold my beer and my pizza for me. Well, I'll be back to get that in about 30 minutes. And, it went off.
Yeah, but he also pulled up lame. When I seen him run, as he's running in the end zone, he grabs the back of his hamstring. And, you're as a Packer fan, you were like, not again. This is like, I was just like, that's 4 weeks. We're not going to see him. And it ended up being fucking like half a season, bro. Just like, holy shit. He came in, they had him, they said he could start, and he never saw a snap. He was listed as a starter.
I think with Caleb, we're going to see maybe one series in the Hall of Fame game, maybe a series or 2 in week 1. Same thing in week 2.
Honestly, I would have hoped they would at least let him play one series in the Hall of Fame. How often do you get to play in a Hall of Fame game?
No, he'll play one series. He'll take at least one series in that one series in week 1 of the preseason, if not 2. I don't think we'll see him ever pass the first quarter of the entire preseason. We're just going to see a lot of Bajan.
A lot of Bajan. Secret
Bajan, man. Yeah, we're going to see a lot of Bajan. I don't see how, and we're not going to see much Rome. The only thing I think we do see a lot of, and this is the irony of it, we see a lot of the starting O-line in preseason games. You ever notice that? Like, everyone's talking about fourth quarter's trash time. You look at the O-line, it's like, dude, that's all the starters still.
That's because you get a lot of injuries on the O-line, and you want to see what you got. So you shuffle guys around. You want to see who can play positions. I mean, you only get so limited snaps, and the preseason is the best place to at least try out your guys and see who gets the blocking schemes down and when guards got a pull and stuff. I mean, you need to see if your guys can do that stuff.
And the Bears definitely have work to do there because look, when we looked at the center position last year, we were horrendous. In fact, anyone who snapped the ball that isn't the long snap, isn't Patrick Manley. Oh, Manley, he's gone. It isn't Patrick Scales, is gone. Right? So the long snapper is the only guy still here. All the other guys who touched the ball at the center position in Chicago are gone. We got 3 new guys there. Right? So it's funny, though, because like the O-line guys, they're really playing a lot of the preseason. And yeah, like Tevin Jenkins has a hard time staying healthy. Nate Davis has a hard time staying healthy. But however, comparatively speaking, they stay pretty healthy for playing the entire preseason.
Yeah.
Once again, why can't receivers, running backs, quarterbacks play more? And defensive players in the preseason. But I hope the offensive line solidifies for Caleb's sake, for Bears fans' sake, because what's the point of getting all these weapons if you can't keep Caleb on his feet?
Yeah.
I mean, that's like Green Bay. Like, what's the point of giving Love $60 million if that's what the number's gonna be, or 55, if they can't protect them? So they got work. I know you guys got some offensive line work to do.
And see, that's another case for people when they talk about Love and his contract. He's one of only 3 quarterbacks who played all of every game last year.
I think, look at Green Bay. It's not. I don't think the contract Love's going to get necessarily based just off of Love. Some of it's like, dude, he's your only option. He knows it. You know it. This is what the market is. You're going to have to pay it, and you're going to pay. And then even if they pay 60, people going, oh my god, and they're saying, hey, potential. He played every game last year. Doesn't get hurt. He had a great first year. We're paying him for his potential. And then if it doesn't work out, they'll find another reason why. They'll be able to say, well, look, if you look at our history with Favre and with Rodgers, we felt good. Everything looked right. We've known this guy for 5 years already, blah, blah, blah. So the Packers can talk their way out of it. Any kind of trouble they get into with the fans if Love doesn't pan out, they're going to be fine. But they're in a situation where, like, okay, they're in the most unique situation quarterback-wise as far as having to redo a contract, because most teams aren't in that situation. They've had a guy start for 2-3 years who was either brought as a free agent or they drafted. Here you're in a situation where you have a quarterback. Yeah, you drafted him, but he has 1 year of starting experience, and now you got to pay him. That's a unique experience. Like when we get time to pay Caleb, if he pans out, dude, who knows what the money's going to be like? But he's going to get a monster contract because once again, what's the market going to be? And if Caleb is a top-tier quarterback, something we're not used to in Chicago, we're going to have to pay top-tier money for a quarterback.
Bro, even if he's not top-tier, I mean, if he's just anything, look, if you get 3,500 yards and 25 touchdowns, he's already a win. Now, that's just his first year. He's going to get better. I mean, that's the thing. He's got to go through his growing pains. There's a natural progression to taking over. It's how often do you see a guy just jump in his first year and not lights out? I mean, last guy I remember, Dak Prescott, 13 wins his rookie year. I can't remember anybody balling out harder than that in their first year.
There have been some good ones. I mean, obviously,
but I'm saying 13 wins in your first year, bro.
Stroud was good last year.
Yeah,
Neckbeard was good at his rookie year. He won 10 games and got the Bears to the playoffs. And then what's funny about Kyle Orton? Won 10 games his rookie year, gets the Bears to the playoffs, doesn't even get 1 vote for offensive MVP. Offensive rookie MVP. He's like, really, dude? As a rookie quarterback in the league back then, 110. I was like, okay, whatever. Big Ben won a Super Bowl as a rookie.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't happen, but it happens. I mean, look, I think Caleb's walking to, as I say in the morning show all the time, he's walking to a wet dream for a quarterback. He's got the most stacked team any rookie quarterback that I can remember. Maybe that Dallas team was pretty stacked. Obviously, they won 13 games his rookie year. I mean, usually quarterbacks,
they had some players on there, but I mean, I wouldn't say they were stacked, but they did have. That's when they had a good line too.
They had a really good line. This Bears team has a really good defense. They've got a ton of great weapons. I mean, he set up. If you're gonna, the one thing I can say about the Bears, they really set a quarterback up for success this time.
Yeah. Well, that's the part. That's the whole thing. Like, I think Poles was realizing, okay, he's like his third year, fourth year. I mean, I got to show something, and he had all that money. I've always said Poles did it right. He cleared out all the dead, got rid of everything, cut the team back, and then had all this money, and then is now building it to the way he wants it. And he's almost done. This is it. We'll find out this season.
I mean, and really, there aren't many players left from the previous administration. I mean, the long snapper, the place kicker, Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet was a pace guy.
Last year, like, position players like what's his name, the other wide receiver,
Darnell Mooney. Yeah, he was the whole. Yeah, he was the holdover. Khalil Herbert was drafted by the last group, I think.
But I wouldn't go and turn on. I was shocked you guys signed Swift because I thought Herbert actually did pretty well for you guys last year.
I think
Swift's going to cut into him now.
What was the other guy we had last year that
or
D'Onta Foreman? Foreman, the last 4 games a year was, in hockey terms, a healthy scratch.
He's been on the waiver wires like in fantasy league. That guy floated around because he was constantly like a fill-in. The Panthers never really had a guy, but he played decent when he was in.
He puts up good numbers, but there's something else going on there because teams don't want to keep him, right?
Yeah, for some reason he can't get into the starting lineup, but he's a great fill-in.
But even when he's a starter, he was great. But then I think there's a little bit of this in the coaching room or something that's
maybe something. The guy's got a personality problem.
So Swift for me was a luxury. Was like a luxury signing because, the running back room with Herbert and Roshan, I'm like, all right, we good. And then they go out 15 minutes in the free agency, and the first thing we hear is Swift, and we're all like,
well, and it's going to cut into Roshan's development. I really thought he might take over for you guys. He might actually beat out Herbert. You know what I'm saying? I really thought there's a chance of that, but then you guys signed Swift, and
I don't know if it hurts his development. It may actually prolong
his carries for sure, bro.
It's going to cut into his touches, but that also prolongs his career in Chicago possibly too. Because last year we put him in the second half and he would kill people, right? Like he was like that second half. Once we beat defenses down, then Roshan would come and beat you down further.
He got fresh legs. That's
fresh legs, and he's a hitter, and he's a bruiser, and he's going to maul you. And so, we get Khalil Herbert and D'Onta would kind of start wearing you down a little bit. They run different styles. And now that we've got you a little bit tired, now remember the guy's going to punch you in the face. And that may still be how they do it. I mean, I'm not sure how Swift fits into this. I don't know. I don't see him as the 1 through 3, first to third, a 3-down back. To me, Herbert's still a starter until he's not. Swift is, I
agree.
Passing
Everybody's
plays.
like instantly putting Swift in there. No, that's not the case, man. NFL teams don't work like this because you brought a guy in. He's got to earn his spot. He's got to be able to.
Well, that's the old way. The old way of thinking is like, well, he's going to be your 3-down back. It's like, dude, since when do we do a 3-down back anywhere now?
Yeah,
those don't exist anymore.
And I think teams nowadays they have certain players on their team where they set up certain plays for them. So when they all right, let's run the Herbert package. So then he's out there and they got certain plays that they know that they scripted, they run, and that's his forte. That's how they know they're going to get. People use that coaches use that all the time. It's a game of inches. You want to play the field. Yeah, it's all nice if you could throw a bomb and score real quick, but then you're given your defense gets tired that way. You want to play balanced ball.
I think what you'll see is like when you see a lot, you'll see a lot more two running back sets where you'll see, Khalil and Swift, and then neither gets the ball and they both go out for a catch. I mean, because they can both catch. I mean, look at Shane Waldron. If you're an OC, would you like to be Shane Waldron right now, Rob? As your new OC coming in, and you look at this Bears roster. You got to figure this guy has got to be one of the happiest OCs in the country.
Yeah, I also would think it comes with a lot of pressure because I mean, there's a lot of pressure. I mean, all the players you guys put on there. I mean, the expectations for you guys are honestly, if you don't win 10 games, I don't know, you know
for
what
me,
I'm saying?
less than yeah.
You guys pile this on yourself. Poles put this on himself. So,
I mean, if you're the OC, you got 3 guys, 2 guys who are proven 1,000-yard guys, a third guy that you drafted in the top 10 who could be 1,000.
You're expecting to be 1,000-yard guy,
right?
You're expecting it to be
800 to 1,000. If you got 800, that'd be like
first year, expectations. But I'm saying eventually he's a 1,000-yard guy.
Yeah, he's a number 1 guy eventually, right? And then you got a running back room. All 3 running backs are like going, okay, all 3 could be starters. And then you got 2 really good tight ends, and you're like, oh, and by the way, all your running backs and tight ends are good, really good receivers of the football. Oh, and then you go out and draft Caleb Williams, former Heisman Trophy. I think he's the first Heisman Trophy winning quarterback we've ever had in Chicago. Actually, now that I think about it, you go out and get Caleb.
Was Luckman a Heisman? I don't think so.
But and here's the other thing though about Caleb. The other thing that gets people excited about Caleb is he does a lot of. He's like Mahomes, a lot of off-platform throws. So like in OTAs, he does a little jump shot throw, right? That like worked. And people are like, oh, so now not only does he have all these people that can catch the ball around him, a lot of sure hands around him. Unlike last year where we had receivers who had drop rates that were over 50%, contested ball rates are 20%. Now you got a bunch of guys with high catch rates, high contested ball rates, quarterback that is willing to throw off platform from any angle as long as thinks he can get it there. As an OC, you're like, man, I can design anything I want. All I gotta do is get one guy open every time. If I can get one guy open, and I got a quarterback who can deliver the ball, who's got good accuracy, which a lot of people that's not a knock on Caleb. No one's ever knocked Caleb saying he's not accurate, right? Or the knocks on Caleb, he runs too much.
Yeah,
that was the knock, right?
He holds the ball too long, and he runs a lot. He runs around a lot.
Right. Now, unlike though when we got Trubisky, when we got Fields, people used to talk about their accuracy and all this other stuff. You haven't heard any of that about Caleb. Like people are like, no, he's accurate, and we know like Odunze, how much did he bail Penix out in college? How many? Look, you watch the film, and it's like it's funny. They were showing like a Penix highlight reel. It should have just been a Rome Odunze highlight reel because look at this awesome pass. I mean, the one where your receiver just bailed you out, right? So I mean, you've got a bunch of guys who can do that. He can design whatever he wants, and you're right. If they don't produce and win, and look at winning 10 games, I think is also the bar is there because of the defense. The defense is can win you on its own 2 or 3 games this year, right? Yeah. That offense has to really produce. Like the Bears need to win a couple games by 2 scores. Like I don't want to see a bunch of. I don't want to see a Minnesota Vikings of 2 years ago where they won 8 games by 1 score. I don't mind winning 2 or 3 like that. I want to see us win 6, 7 2-score games.
Yeah, you want to convincingly win. You
yes.
want to like show that you control the clock, the game most of the time.
How much did Detroit do that last year? How much did Detroit? Detroit. You look at their 13 wins. How many of those games did they actually control?
Early on, they did better, but towards the end, they had their. I mean, like in the game with you guys, the first game with you guys with that interception, late. I mean, bro, they weren't even leading that one.
No, and if our JJ doesn't drop a pick 6, that game's over.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, and the Bears were in a lot of good 1-score games last year, based primarily on the defense and a really bad offense. So if the offense improved, the defense doesn't have to get much better, but they're going to get better. Then I hope in Chicago
playing against a better, having all these players on your offense, having these type of players that you didn't play against last year is going to make the defense better. I mean, just in practice,
iron sharpens iron. Right?
Yeah, that's right, bro. That's exactly it.
And so, like, when some of the fans freaked out about, he got benched, no TAs, it's okay, whatever. If he was benched or not benched, or if that's just the term the reporter decided to use to make headlines, which it did, he got paid from the clicks. You know what, though? When you hear the defensive guys at the press conferences they were holding at OTAs and minicamp, like, it's got to be. They got to hate this. Every player, I don't care what position they played, every player got asked about Caleb.
Yeah.
And they're, some of them are like, JJ, when they first asked him, he's like, dude, I'm too busy concentrating on myself to worry about my quarterback. But then he finally relented and said, well, look, he's like, he said his ball placement. Like, JJ's like, his ball placement is ridiculous. Like, he's putting the ball in places like we have perfect coverage, and he puts the ball in the one place that there's just, defensively, I can't do anything about it. And they're making plays offensively. So there's, the defense has been saying a lot about his ball placement and his decision making. They're like, what about the 7 interceptions? Like, well, he's playing against the 5th ranked defense in the league, and he needs to figure out what he can and can't do. So are you trying to say I'm not a good defense? And they're like, no. So it's kind of funny because he is practicing against a top tier defense, which is different from most rookie quarterbacks. Most rookie quarterbacks come into a team that can't figure out, which way is out on a wet paper bag. They can't figure out which way to get to the stadium.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that this situation for Caleb. I mean, Bears always have a good defense, but this is really a good iron sharpen iron. And it's great for the division because the Packers are looking like they're going to be good. The Lions are going to still be good. Minnesota, they're good, but you want to talk about quarterback situations.
Yeah,
Minnesota is the one. This is gonna be a fun. I can't wait for the season. We got 6 weeks.
You guys got like 3 weeks, right? 3-4 weeks. Now? You got 3 or 4 weeks before the training camp gets here.
Yeah, we get here. Well, yeah, about that mid-July, right?
Yeah, you guys are like early. You guys start. You guys get to start a week earlier than the rest of us.
Yeah,
you guys you're over 3 weeks away.
Yeah, so I mean, we get to watch starting next week. The Bears fans went crazy. Oh, the Giants were stupid. They volunteered for Hard Knocks, and then it came out. Oh, this is a different Hard Knocks show. But that starts on July 1st. And that'll be interesting to watch I know Ryan Poles will be watching because he thought for sure that the Giants were going to nab Rome. If you watch that video clip they put out, he's like, oh, they're going to take Rome. Everyone's like, no, they're taking Neighbors. He's like, oh, my gut's telling me they're going to take Rome. I can't wait to see the draft process for the Giants and why they took Neighbors over Rome. Because, a lot of people thought Rome was like the best receiver in the draft. And then others said, no, it's Marvin Harrison Jr. I was saying Marvin Harrison Jr., remember, early on.
There was 3 of them that Neighbors was the third one, I think, that they were all like, they can interchange,
Yeah, but like when you heard the conversations, though, like the guys who get paid millions of dollars to do what we do for a hobby, right? These guys were all talking Harrison Jr. and Odunze. You very rarely heard Neighbors. Neighbors was like that forgotten guy. So I can't wait to see what New York saw, what the research said. I'll watch the New York Hard Knocks. It's called Hard Knocks. Is it preseason or postseason? They got a different name for it.
Preseason, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That's what Hard Knocks is, though. But that's the preseason.
It's like this.
Maybe it's like the off season or something.
Yeah, because it covers from basically when their season ended through the draft into that rookie OTA, and I think that's when they stopped filming.
Yeah, I'm going to say because now that's where regular Hard Knocks takes over for you guys.
And then the Bears take over at the beginning. They're probably already filming or setting up, but I'm sure they're doing.
And then who's got the in season this year? Who's doing the Hard Knocks?
It's an AFC North, I think, is what they announced, isn't it? I have a feeling it's going to be Baltimore. They haven't announced the team, but I have a feeling it's going to be Baltimore.
Some of that I got lost when some of those I could watch, but man, I mean, I'm a fantasy guy, so I constantly watch these games. I'm watching them, so it's hard for me to get into Hard Knocks in season because I'm already.
You got 30 teams. Don't you have like every single player in the NFL on one of your teams? I mean,
but managing 25 teams, I have a lot of different guys.
I know it's like that's the thing. Like here's your fantasy days gotta be fun because I know if I have 2 or 3 teams, I get these situations with only having 2 or 3 teams. Sometimes I'm like, crap, I really need to win this game in this league. But if my quarterback does well in this league, he's killing me in that league because I have the defense he's playing against. Like, sometimes you can't help it when you draft. I mean, you try.
Hard. I mean, every team you have to, like, everybody asks me, how do you stay objective? Well, look, I just, like, when I go on a team, when I click on a team, I just pretend that's the only team I got, and I'm just playing it like it is.
I mean, I get it. You probably try to make sure if you can, like, if you can have the same quarterback starting.
I try to, yes. Yeah. I have certain rules that I follow.
Right, and I do too. Like, you want to keep it as similar as possible, but then when the draft goes, okay, well, the guy who I took in the third round of wide receiver in my last league is gone. Okay, well, I still need a receiver because there's a run on receivers right now. So now I'll go get this guy and hope he doesn't kill me.
You guys stacking up, everybody in this division getting stronger makes it harder for me because my number one rule is I don't pick anybody in the division because I don't want to be playing in the middle of the season. And
dude, it's hard though.
Team. I mean, well, it is. I mean, JJ from the Minnesota. I mean, he was Kirk Cousins was another one that was a decent guy. Yeah, I mean, there's been some guys where but they're on the other team. But there's a lot of other players that are out there that I can.
I'm trying to think the last time I had a Packer.
Exactly. See, I don't pick any Bears. I do not pick a Bear player at all.
Well, you want the thing though, even with the Packers is
that's some guys.
Yeah, but with the Packers, it was like, okay, Rodgers and Devontae were worth taking for fantasy, right? Back when they were having their time. And then it was like Rodgers, but there wasn't anyone else.
Aaron Jones, but then Aaron Jones started getting injured. And then
Aaron Jones wasn't good for fantasy though. Like he was good for football, but not for fantasy.
Well, what made Aaron Jones good was he was a catching receiver. So if you're in a PPR league, that's awesome.
But if you're in the head-to-head though, I was better off with some of these guys who rush for 5 yards but get 3 touchdowns, right? So Green Bay was always kind of like, okay, Minnesota was the same way. Like maybe Minnesota, their defense would be worth taking from time to time. Yeah. In Detroit, it was worth taking Stafford because you knew Stafford would get yards and you would get things because the defense.
Yeah, he always had big 4,000 yard seasons. Yeah, he was always good for that.
Or Megatron was always worth having. Yeah. But like. This
only
year,
a few players, only a very few, and my reckoning to myself is, all right. So there's a handful of guys that are in this division. So instead of getting JJ, I'll go get Jamar Chase instead. Right. That's my substitute for taking him.
Like I would get Fields because I knew he'd get fantasy points, and he did. And
I picked Jordan Love as my backup quarterback last year. And do you know how many guys he beat out by the end of the season, bro? And he never saw starting time. Never.
It was funny because at one point I had Brady, I had Fields, and I had what's his name in Buffalo?
Josh.
Yeah,
I know you're talking about.
Yeah, and Fields was outscoring all of them when the year he had all the rushing yards.
Yeah,
so the Bears weren't winning games. But Fields was put up massive numbers for fantasy. But
whole point in Buffalo, he throws a lot of interceptions, so that takes some of.
But that was like Ben Roethlisberger when he was he frustrated me as a quarterback for fantasy because 1 week he'd throw for 500 yards and 8 touchdowns. It felt like the next week 3 interceptions, 124 yards, but the Pittsburgh would win the game. And you're like, it was so hard to get consistency. Josh Allen, that's who it is. So
Josh Allen,
it's hard. But this year in the division, I mean, you got 3 quarters. I mean, Caleb's going to get drafted in a lot of leagues just because of what he's got around him.
Oh yeah, he's a number 1 pick. He's starting. I mean, if you're a starting quarterback, you have a chance to make a roster. I mean, even if it's a backup quarterback. I'm not saying I would start Caleb. But I'm not saying I would shy away from picking him up as a backup.
For fantasy this year, I think, Caleb is going to get taken by a lot of guys. DJ Moore's worth having. Cole Kmet's worth having. At the running back situation, I would take any of the Bears running back mid-round flyers. Like I wouldn't take any of the Bears running back to be my RB1 for fantasy because it's a 300 monster. To be honest, they're good. Like if you can go out and get a Derrick Henry or some guy who's a true RB1 who's going to put up numbers, but I don't think I would not take any of the Bears running backs in the top half of the draft. Like I would take Cole Kmet because you know how tight ends go. There's usually 1 or 2 in the league that's good and that's it for points. Cole Kmet was pretty good last year. I had a career year, so Cole Kmet's worth taking in fantasy. DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Rome Odunze. the running backs are all like mid-round guys for me.
I want to see how the Bears are going to play because they have so many weapons now. You guys are changing up your red zone. I guarantee you. To me, I take red zone targets into it. That when you're drafting a fantasy team, red zone targets are a big, huge part.
And that's why Roschon Johnson, I think, might be a good flyer for fantasy because I think he's gonna be a short yardage run guy, and they'll use
goal line guys.
Yeah. You'll see the two. This is what you'll see if it's like 3rd and goal from the 4. You'll see Roschon and Swift both back there, and they're either going to hand the rock to Roschon to pound it in or pass it to Swift. I mean, but to keep defenses because you got both options there, plus your receivers and tight end.
Who was your big red zone target last year? Wasn't it Komet?
Komet. Well, Komet, though most of his touchdowns weren't red zone; they were like just outside of it. He had longer ones.
Oh, really? So
yeah, it was the running backs actually catching the ball, running the ball. But yeah, I think for Bears running backs, they're more. I think Swift might be the guy you might want to pick up first for the Bears, just for the red zone threat. Roschon's a good sleeper pick that you'll be able to get late in a draft that you can just stash on your bench if you need a running back. But even Green Bay, obviously you got a running back that's worth taking in fantasy now. Which how often does that happen in Green Bay? It doesn't. It's not what Green Bay is known for. Defensively, I would take Chicago. I would take Minnesota. I would look at Detroit as a good option in later rounds. I'd stay away from Green Bay for the first half of the season and wait and see how that change in Green Bay works before I took on my fantasy team. They might be a good bye-week replacement if it's a favorable matchup. But right now, I'm not.
The defenses to me, unless you got an absolute top 3, they're all interchangeable. I mean, it's like
it's matchup.
They're like kickers. They're like kickers. Yeah, it's matchup. Yeah,
I mean, it's funny because for the longest time, there are 2 defenses that are almost always worth taking: Baltimore and Chicago. And guess what? This year, those are 2 defenses that are worth taking.
49ers are usually in it. Buffalo was in it for a long time. Buffalo really had a great defense for a long time. They had a good front 4.
I would definitely draft the Bears defense this year. I would draft Baltimore's defense. I can't tell you how many times in fantasy during the Ray Lewis, Brian Urlacher years where I had both defenses every year.
Yeah, no.
I just be sitting there with Baltimore and Chicago
sacks and picks and turnovers and stuff like that are all what you want in your fantasy.
And the Bears led the league in interceptions last year. The sack numbers are going to go up. So the Bears are worth drafting. I think the Vikings are a good defensive draft. If maybe if they're your first option.
I want to see how they are. Everybody in our division has done so much on their team, except maybe the Lions. I mean, the Lions, I don't think they did enough to. I mean, I think they stayed the same. I think they replaced their losses and are still just as good as they were, just like they didn't improve as much as they like to think they have. I think the rest of the division has improved massively across the board. I mean, the Packers went and got McKinney and Jacobs. I mean, they improved their offense and defense before the draft.
I think, though, a lot of people, Bears fans too, would say this by and large, think that the running back is more of a lateral. Because, like, you picked up something, you picked up a few things with Jacobs, but you lost a couple other things. So it's kind of like a little ticky for tacky.
If I get 10 to 12 games out of him, that's an improvement already.
And then McKinney is an improvement, but
yeah, he's a massive improvement.
But we gotta say the same thing with our guys we signed. The problem with when we sign free agents, how many times have we signed a free agent and that free agent wasn't what we hoped he would be? It happens a lot.
Yeah,
so I like what the Bears did at the center position. They went and they hedged their bets. They went and got 3. At least one of the 3 better pan out, right? I mean,
that's what you do. When you got a hole, you throw everything at it.
So I like the
3
Packers.
safeties.
Yeah, so I mean, like Desmond said last Monday on the show, in the morning show, we have to see these guys on the field and see how they interact on the field. I think overall there are the Lions did the least in the division, then the Packers are the next team, then the Vikings, and then the Bears. So if you went from who did the most, the Bears, then the Vikings, and the Lions. I'm sorry, then the Packers and the Lions. Right? There's the teams that probably did the most to their team. Because the Packers didn't have much to fix. But the Packers, though, it's going to be interesting. I want to see what's going to happen at right guard. Like how, is that thing going to be as solid as some Packer fans think? Because losing one of your guys who played over 50% of the snaps there last year, and then they tried to mitigate. Oh, at the end of the year, he wasn't as good. But dude, he still played a lot of snaps, provided a lot of work for you. Now that work's got to be replaced. Now the guy who did really good, who wasn't playing all the time, is playing all the time. How does he degrade? Right? Does he degrade? I mean, those are the things that as fans we don't look at, because sometimes they say, oh, well, so-and-so played great. Dude, he played 50% of the snaps. Now he's playing all the snaps. Can he maintain all the snaps? 50% of the snaps is easier to maintain than all the snaps.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there are going to be some good – each team, I think, has some good question marks coming in. Like, I don't think – that's the cool thing, too, is each team we have some good question marks that we can look at and say, okay, if McKinney solidifies the backfield with Zaire, that defense is going to be – it's going to be, by week 10, 11, that defense is going to be getting there. With your right guard situation, the next day, this guy pans out. All right, we're solid. With the Bears, Caleb gets some success the first couple games, and we'll be like, okay, they fixed their hole. They fixed their problem. With Minnesota, defensively, they're fine. It's going to be, once again, for them, their quarterback line situation, too. We all got these cool little questions that we'll know by week 4 or 5.
Yeah.
We hope. But it's cool because the Lions, did them not changing hurt them? Or is Dan Gamble making another gamble? And all these people they brought in to fix their secondary, who, by the way, according to Lions fans, are the best people in the league now.
Yeah. They got the best of everything.
Like, it's funny, like, we cast a guy away. They signed, well, he's the best corner in the league. Then why did no one else want him?
Yeah.
Oh, he's a Lion now. He's the best.
And sometimes guys have resurgence in their careers when they go someplace else. It's not out of the realm of possibility.
Jay Leno Jr.
But it never fucking happens all the time. So it's not
the Bears. We Bears fans, we know that. Like Leno Jr., Mustapher, they sucked no linemen as when they were here, and they go to other teams that are all pros all of a sudden. You're like, yeah, what the hell? So I don't know. For the Bears this year, I'm looking forward to Hard Knocks in a way, because I just am ready to stop. I think me and you feel it differently because we're doing the morning show every day, and we're definitely more engrossed than a lot of people. I'll just be happy to get some new stuff and watch new football stuff. That's not the guessisms and the whatisms, whataboutisms, and all that kind of stuff. We're actually start to see stuff come off paper and get put into practice, where we can watch these young guys who are trying to make a team, and we can start talking about guys that promise versus, we're going to win 18 games this year. We only played 17. Yeah, I know. We're going to win 18. We can stop that crap and go to the real football stuff.
Homer takes.
I mean, we're going to do some Homer takes. I get it. We're still fans of our respective teams, but I don't know. It's like, it'd be nice just to get some real.
I just want to see some real. I want to start having something to talk about every week. I mean, we're wearing out the topics we got. We need some new, fresh stuff. And
if you're watching the morning show, some of our topics. Look, it's cool because we're exploring the other parts of football, but I'd rather we talk about the play on the field versus exploring, some of the things we're exploring, which is still fun to talk about, but not the same as.
I'd rather talk about how teams are going to win their divisions and stuff like that than talk about international football and
the economics, and the.
I got to do too much work for to even talk about.
Yeah. But some of that stuff is fun. But hey, Rob, thank you for joining me today on Halas. The rest of the guys, I guess Mike's on a roof somewhere with an emergency. We'll see you all tomorrow morning on Ken and Ken in the morning. We're going to have another fun week. House Hall will be back Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central. Rob, of course, on Frozen Tundra. We'll be back Monday night at 7 or 8? 7 or 8 Central.
It's 7.
7 Central Monday night. If you want to watch what the Packer fans are talking about, you want to see some Homer takes, go watch Frozen Tundra on Monday.
Join the Frozen Tundra Network.
Between Nick, John Dorn, and Bill, it's Homer Nation. So everyone have a great Sunday. Have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.
This is a Huddle Sports Network broadcast. You can find us on Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, Facebook, and of course YouTube. Get all your NFL news here first. The daily podcasts are Ken and Ken in the Morning, Lions Talk with Smoking Jeremy B, Around the Indoor Football World, Shield TV, and The Big Football Show. The afternoon podcasts are Valhalla Hour, Brosef Sports, WCFL Dolphins Talk, The Cheap Seats, Bodkin Show, and Spirit of Detroit Podcast. The nightly podcasts are Halas Hall Report, Frozen Tundra Network, Wrestling Roundup, Skull Gang 365, First and 10 with Foz, Prime Sports World, The Man Cave, Prim and Proper Sports, Spitballin' Podcast, Lions Fan Cave Chat, 313 Den Podcast, Puckett, The Guys Huddle, Main Event Football Show, Let's Talk Sports, The Michigan Sports Truth Podcast, and Off the Rails. Hope you enjoy all the shows and feel free to comment, like, share, and subscribe.